Hello and welcome to another episode of Practice Perfection. Today we're continuing our exploration of the accent grid and that wonderful framework that it provides for working on different types of techniques. If you don't know what the accent grid is yet, or you go through this and you're still a little rusty on it, take a look back at episode Beta17. That's where I outline that and we go through it together. But today we're going to go ahead and go on with another cool way to interpret this. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the accents with the bass drum. And all we're doing is whichever hand would ordinarily come there in the accent grid, we're going to replace it with a bass drum. So we get four possible options if we're leading with our right hand. The first one, instead of right, left, becomes bass, left, left. The second accent placement becomes, instead of right, left, it becomes right, bass, left. The third accent placement, instead of right, left, becomes right, left, bass, left. And finally, the last permutation, the of the beat, instead of one E and right, left, becomes right, bass. So here's what the first four bars look like at about this speed. 1 E and 2 E and try it with me. 3, 2, ready, here we go. Bass, left, bass, left, bass, left, bass, left. Now the E, right, bass, left, bass, left. Now the third, bass, left, bass, left, bass, left, bass. Now the fourth one, right, bass, 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 left, bass. So this is a little bit more advanced material, so if you're more of a beginner drummer, you're going to probably want to, just watch this, kind of take it in, go back, rewatch episode 13B where we go over the accent grid and just kind of see how this works. But I'm going to go ahead and get the metronome going. I've got 100 beats per minute, but we're going to treat this as quarter note to which we're going to play eighth notes. So we're going to go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and that speed. And we're going to go through the whole accent grid one time at each speed. 2, ready, go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 4. Now 1 E and right, left, bass, left, bass, left, right. Now repeat. Bass. Now 2 reps. And repeat. Now 1 time each. Okay, that's 1 time through. Let's go on up to 120 beats per minute. This is the equivalent, of course, of playing 16th notes at 60. A 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Okay, and on up to 140. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... And real quick before we go on to 160, we could of course play this around the drum set. We could use some different orchestrations of drums, and we could also do things like keep time with the left foot, which is a whole other level of coordination. For right now, I'll keep it simple. Stay on the snare drum. A lot of times I'll like to do that, by the way, whenever I'm working on some pattern that has, a little bit of coordination challenge to it. I'll keep it on one drum initially, or in this case, one hand surface plus the foot, before I start playing around with orchestrating it, just because the brain tends to process it as though it were a whole new pattern initially. So here we go. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Okay, and on up to 180. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Okay, and on up to 200, but I'm going to back it down to 100 and play it in 16ths. Okay, here we are at 100 beats per minute, 16th notes. A 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Okay, so that gives you the idea. That's taking the accent grid and replacing each accent with a bass drum wherever we would ordinarily have an accented note. So this is the first of our variations on that has an actual substitution going on, where we're actually replacing a hand note with something else. So it's a different level of coordination required for this, and you might find it easiest at first just to practice like one of these permutations at a time. So let's say I did it at eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Bass left, bass left, right, left. I might just sit on this one for a little while. Hello, Matthew. And when I feel comfortable with that, then I can shift over to maybe the second permutation. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... And hello, Aiden, by the way. And then the third one. Right, left, bass left, 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 right. And then finally the fourth one. 3, 4, right, left, bass, right, left, bass, right, left, bass, right, left, bass. And once I feel comfortable with that, then there are two directions we could go with that. One, of course, would be to go ahead and start playing on into the actual accent groove, either by just doing the first 4 bars repeatedly or going through the whole thing. Another way, though, is you might practice just taking one of the permutations and start working it up speed-wise and also around the drum set. So if I were to do the last one again, right, bass, I might do something like this. And if I'm feeling comfortable, I can go ahead and start getting a little fancier. And then start working that up speed-wise. Because each one of these 4 permutations, whether you're replacing this one, this one, this one, or this one with a bass drum is really, really useful to have in your arsenal. And that's again why I really prefer using this within the accent grid, because it just gives a nice framework for working through each one of these in turn and getting comfortable with them and getting some practice switching from one to the other. And then this can become part of your vocabulary. So I hope that's useful to you. And if you have any questions or comments, please type them into the comment section below, or you can contact me at my website, kitmills.com, and I'd be happy to answer you there. And I hope you found this useful. If you did, then I encourage you to hit the like button, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube account here if you have not already. And yeah, accent grid, I think this was our 5th day on it. So, I mean, there's so many things we can do with this. We'll probably do a couple more different variations off this just because it's a fantastic tool for exploring different techniques. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Practice Perfection. Thanks so much, and until then, keep on drumming.